So we have some massive updates to New Zealand, something that is going to affect everybody, absolutely everybody, all Kiwis and all people who come and visit this beautiful country. And even beyond that, all the people that we export our food to. New Zealand has a long history, a reputation for being a clean, green, safe country. The New Zealand government promotes us as 100% pure. And this form of promotion, of advertising, this reputation is responsible for generating $50 billion in our export market, specifically in our produce and meat. We export produce and meat to countries such as Japan, America, the United Kingdom, who pay a premium for our produce and meat because it is ethical, clean, green, in line with this 100% pure New Zealand image. But a new bill, the Gene Technology Bill 2024, is being proposed. It has already passed its first reading, and it's on to its second reading in Parliament. It's being proposed to completely rewrite and change this identity, this 100% pure identity that New Zealand has built up over these years, threatening this $50 billion export market, but deeper than that, threatening our sovereignty, threatening our health on a far deeper level. You see, this bill affects everybody who lives in the country. But there was no referendum. There was no public agreement. There was not even a chance for the public to have a say on a bill that affects everyone. And we will get into the details of how this bill affects everybody soon. So the public tried to put in their say. There was over 15,000 submissions directly to the New Zealand Health Committee. 97% of these directly opposed the New Zealand 2024 Gene Technology Bill. Despite all of this, the New Zealand Health Committee decided to ignore these 15,000 submissions and go ahead and recommend this bill be passed anyway. May I remind you, this bill has never had a referendum. There has been no allowance for public to have any say, to have any input. This has just gone on behind closed doors without any public involvement, and they've tried to keep it as hush-hush and quiet as possible. The only reason people know about it is because of social media and people speaking up. So how does this 2024 Gene Technology Bill affect everybody in New Zealand? Up until today, as of current, including today, New Zealand has had a pretty strong stance against GMOs entering the country. Right now, we do not use any gene technology in the production of both our produce and our meat sector. But this bill aims to change all of that. Under the guise of safely introducing gene technology into our produce and meat sector, we are going to be rewriting this GMO-free status, giving multinationals a play at our currently and previously GMO-free status. We are going to be opening the door for these massive multinational conglomerates to come in and influence our agriculture sector. You see, the vast majority of gene tech isn't done so to try and boost yield. It isn't done so to try and make more perfect or flavorful fruit. The majority of gene technology is used to make crops that are more resistant to herbicides and pesticides, in particular to glyphosate. It is done so to enable these crops to be able to be sprayed with more glyphosate and not die. May I remind you that glyphosate belongs to a family of compounds called organophosphates. These organophosphates were heavily developed and evolved from World War II. They were used as a chemical warfare agent by Germany during World War II. The war ended. They had built up all this infrastructure to manufacture these organophosphates. So, of course, all this money on the line, instead of just getting rid of it entirely, they rebranded, slightly reformulated, came out with these things called herbicides and pesticides and glyphosate, which is most commonly known and sold as Roundup, and distributed it through our agricultural industry. Something that has its roots as a chemical warfare agent is now being sprayed all over our food. But up until today, New Zealand has had drastic limits on this. And the main reason we have limits on how much glyphosate can be sprayed on our produce is because the produce itself, the fruit and vegetables, would simply die if you sprayed too much. So the company that produces this glyphosate or Roundup, also known as Bayer, have patented different GMO crops to be resistant to glyphosate, meaning farmers are able to spray tons and tons and tons of it. The plants still grow, they don't die, but everything else around them, the whole microbial, everything in the soil, everything dies except for the plant. And of course, all these plants, fruits and vegetables, may I remind you, are about 90% water on average. Do you think something that is being sprayed on these plants that is water soluble while it's being growing isn't going to make its way into the fruit and vegetable that you then ingest? So the main aspect of this gene technology bill, it's going to enable farmers to spray far more amounts of this glyphosate compound directly onto the food that we then ingest. At the same time that this bill is being passed, the 2024 Gene Technology Bill, there is another bill being proposed that aims to increase the acceptable limit of glyphosate, as in the acceptable limit of residue found on vegetables, fruits, and crops after harvest by 100-fold. The government is allowing a 100-fold increase in the detectable residue levels of glyphosate on crops, fruits, and vegetables. And this is no coincidence. This is being proposed at the same time that this bill is about to be passed. All of these things coincide, they relate with one another. New Zealand is currently opening the door for massive conglomerate multinationals to come in and play in our agricultural industry. This will affect absolutely everybody. Part of this bill, there are really shady rules around whether these GMO crops or GMO products will even need to display any form of labeling. Apologies, I'm getting some calls. So there is no clear body set up to ensure that these products that have been genetically engineered and genetically modified will even need to display a form of labeling, meaning the end consumer may not even know whether they're consuming something of genetic GMO origin. Once these gene-edited crops enter New Zealand, there is no going back. You see, this will even affect our organic sector, because everything that is released into our environment is made so perfectly. Everything that enters is recycled through this beautiful system. When you spray tons of glyphosate on the field, the vast majority, like 90% of this, doesn't actually get absorbed into the crop. It runs off into our streams and into our waterways. The water is then recycled. It goes up into the clouds and it comes out, and the clouds and the rain is supposed to recycle these toxic compounds, but we are finding residues of herbicides and pesticides in the rain, meaning the natural process is unable to recycle the amount that we are just blindly spraying all over our planet. So this rain then falls on even certified organic farms. And then you find residues of these pesticides and herbicides even within organic crops that have never had any pesticides or herbicides directly sprayed on them. This affects the entire ecosystem. There has been 15,000 submissions publicly to the New Zealand Health Committee. 97% of these oppose this bill, but they're still going ahead full steam. Where is the democracy in this, I ask? We are blindly selling our country out. There are things we can do. If the government is not going to listen to our voices, we can vote with our dollars. Every single time we spend money, we are fueling a system. When we spend money in the GMO industry, we are fueling the businesses that act as the pillars propping up the system. When we spend money in the organic sector, we are fueling the pillars of the organic sector. If enough of us remove our capital, our money, which is energy, from these sectors, from these businesses that act as the pillars supporting the sectors, they simply have no option but to wither out and die. I hope it doesn't come to this. I hope the government in their second reading wakes up. There's a lot of opposition, including within Parliament. And this bill is pulled and does not go ahead. I hope the current national government, who is supposed to be for business, for economic activity, realizes that all this is going to do is completely degrade our 100% pure image. It's going to threaten this $50 billion export market. And all it's really going to benefit are these multinational conglomerates, such as Bayer Corp, who manufacture the glyphosate, who manufacture the Roundup, and also have the patents for the GMO technology that creates the plants to be resistant to their product. Anyway, peace and love to you all. Bless.